If a buck like this were to come near you in your tree stand, would you be interested? What about this one? Or this one? Or this one? Or this one? Hello, Mike Schaefer here, and I want to welcome you to the property, and today I would like to talk about mock scrapes and what makes them successful. So what do you think? Could this dead branch and that dead old tree be enough of a setup to bring in a nice buck? Well, I can tell you the deer are using this branch right now. And last year in late October, really about this time of day, late morning, a really nice buck came into this very branch, this very setup, and worked it over and then left. Now, you can't actually hunt this spot with a bow, but that doesn't matter to me because he was on my property, and just 15 minutes later, my brother was able to put this fine buck on the ground. I keep tabs with a lot of the hunters around here, and these 3.5 and 4.5-year-old bucks are about the best that we have to offer in our area. Every year they find these scrape setups, and every year they visit this property during the daylight. I do believe that if you employ these techniques on your property, you can bring in the best bucks in your area to your property as well. The most important aspect of establishing a mock scrape is location. If you want to see them in the daylight, it's got to be in a place where that buck feels safe, moving from cover to open area to cover. The site of the scrape needs to be open, secure, the buck's able to move around, and he's able to visualize what's going on around him. That's why I don't recommend doing this along hedgerows or tree lines or wide open hardwoods. Buck needs to be secure. The second point is it needs to be where the buck wants to go anyway. That scrape needs to be on a travel route. Deer will bend, but they will not break, and I think it's really important to actually, as much as you can, put that scrape right in his face where he's going anyhow. As I mentioned before, this scrape behind me is not immediately huntable, but he has to get there, and I could put a stand somewhere on the route on either side. The third thing is there needs to be a social presence of other deer there. That's the only reason this buck is coming. People often say, wow, all I see here is fawns and does and small bucks. I don't see any big bucks. Well, actually, of course you won't. There aren't as many of them, and they're more careful. But I can assure you, they're going to find these places every last setup that you put up if it's in the right spot. They're going to find it at night, and then they're going to show up later during the daytime. You can make these scrapes in any number of ways. You can bend a branch over, or as you saw over there, you can tie a separate limb to another tree. But I like to put that limb low enough so that a button buck is almost always the first one to the scrape, so that he can be able to use it. Because once he starts licking on it, once he starts rubbing his periorbital glands, he's made it a social center. Does will use it, small bucks will use it, and the more small deer that use it, the better it is for you as a large buck hunter. The point I'd like to make here is that the key to this entire setup is not the scrape on the ground. It is the licking branch over top. That branch is the social center. When I'm making a mock scrape setup, I will often tear up the ground. Sometimes I'll do nothing. Sometimes I'll pee in it. Sometimes I'll set up a scent dripper. I believe activating the scrape or having a continuous drip in it helps it, but it's not necessarily the key. It's kind of that icing on the cake that makes it seem interesting and active. The best areas for these scrapes are often forest openings, rut funnels, travel patterns. If you get social activity going, the big bucks are going to come. And the more quality setups you have dispersed all over your property, the more chances you have of keeping that buck on your property and a chance at an encounter and a harvest. My cameras tell me on these days that when the bucks are searching, they will often go around the property and show up at several of the mock scrape sites. What I'd like to do in my next video is to go through 3 of my favorite setups. I want to go through them, analyze them, break them down, and maybe we can understand why they're successful, and maybe some of that will be translatable to your property. Thanks for watching.